Fam, you guys, we did it. We're here. It's 12:06. 6 minutes late is almost on time. Anyway, I feel like we should get right to the point. Actually, I need to see my screen so I can see what you're looking at. There we go. Oh, we'll come back to her. So you guys, we started yesterday. This is a T-Rex tooth. If I didn't mention that before, T-Rex had the strongest bite force of any animal that has ever lived on land. 13,000 pounds per square inch, which is like dropping 13 grand pianos on something this size. And we'll come back to that in a little bit because who doesn't want to talk more about T-Rex? So guys, welcome. I guess we're calling this Dino 101. Why not? You're all enrolled in college now, which is great. Dino 101 college. These are strange times, obviously, and a lot of us are literally captive audiences right now. So I thought it'd be a great time for us to come together and nerd out, again, about the greatest group of animals to have ever existed. I assume all of you also believe that because you're here right now. And if you don't, you assume that is my goal. But today is kind of like syllabus day. I should mention we're going to try to keep these relatively quick, like 30 minutes or so. Because I know we all have a lot to do stuck in our homes. Anyway, today is basically like syllabus day, right? I'm going to get to know you guys. You're going to get to know me a little bit. But most importantly, I need you to put your questions in the comments on Instagram Live or in the chat box here on Zoom. Your questions or the things that you want to talk about with respect to dinosaurs, what kind of topics, issues, mostly questions, because this is how this is going to go down. Because days of the week are meaningless at this point, starting tomorrow, Saturday is the first day of class, right? And so I have a general idea starting tomorrow for probably the next week or two of what each day, each 30-minute session is going to talk, what we're going to talk about. But I want to use your ideas and your questions to kind of seed those discussions. So it's not just me talking at you. We're doing this together because we really are, right? We're on this adventure in quarantine together as one big quarantine. But even more importantly, like that's how science works, right? We ask questions, we collaborate, we come together, and we're better when we put all of our brains together to try to figure out whatever we're trying to figure out. We learn more that way as well. So again, please put all of your questions, dinosaur thoughts, comments in the comments on Instagram Live, in the chat box here on Zoom. So I'm gonna use those moving forward. But today, again, it's syllabus day. So the three things we're gonna talk about, that's a three, are T-Rex. Come back to our friend here in a minute. Myself, I want you guys to know a little bit about me, and I wanna know a little bit about you. So as we start doing this, in addition to you putting your dinosaur questions and thoughts and comments, put a little bit about yourself in the chat box. Say like why you're here, maybe where you're at, if you wanna drop your favorite dinosaur. This is like, remember ASL, A/S/L? This is like, I want location, name, favorite dinosaur, that type of thing, in addition to your questions. And it's awesome to see I got people, oh wait, we got people waiting. Got Ryan Dodge, now they're in, there we go. Those of you who just joined us, again, I need questions and comments in the chat box. We're gonna use those to seed the discussion in the week or two moving forward. I'm excited to have you guys here. We got people from all over the world, including friends from Canada, which is like America's hat. Hats off to America's hat. So today we're talking about me, we're talking about you, we're talking about America's dinosaur, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. I should mention I'm currently in Ohio. I'm from Ohio. I grew up in Ohio. I was born in Hawaii. That's my fun fact. But I grew up in Ohio. I live in New York, I guess currently. Well, not right now because I'm in Ohio, but I live in New York. And my parents are here in Ohio, and my dad has an Airbnb that, well, is not being used because no one is traveling right now. And so my brother and I thought it'd be a good place to come hole up for a couple weeks because things in New York are pretty crazy right now. So we're here in Ohio again. But when I am in New York and during like normal times, I am a museum consultant. So I help different cultural institutions communicate the science and the stories behind their incredible collections, which is an insanely fun job. I also do a lot of weird dinosaur stuff on the internet, like this right here. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram. For my Zoom people, I'm Dinosaur Whisperer. I have a YouTube channel called The Dinosaur Show on YouTube. That would make sense. I'm writing a book about dinosaurs right now. You can pretty much find me anywhere under Dustin Growick, Venmo, Cash App, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. I'm excited to nerd. I don't have, shut up, Max. I don't have an OnlyFans yet. I'm not gonna, well, anyway. And so that's where I am. That's where we are. But speaking of brothers, this is Max. Max, come say hi. Oh, I have a couple friends. So I'm here in this room. I bring them up because you're going to see them a lot in these videos. This is Max. Max is a phenomenal tattoo artist. You can follow him on Instagram at max@tattoos. This is Maya. She's the Tiger Queen. If you haven't watched Tiger King yet, you should get on that. It's bonkers. As far as hobbies go, you know, I have a fair amount of ADHD. Oh, hi, friend. Fair amount of ADHD, so I run a lot. I have a hard time sitting still. So if you dip out of this chat for a minute to go pee or get a sandwich and you come back and you see me literally hanging from those rafters, you'll understand why. All right. Oh, I see some friends. We need to let more friends in. So those of you who have missed the beginning, I just want to reiterate today, to get to know us, get to know me, get to know you session, as well as talking a little bit about our friend T-Rex here. This is a tooth, not an entire T-Rex, but you knew that. But moving forward, tomorrow and every day at noon, we're going to have a different topic we're going to explore, but I need your questions and your input so we can figure out what those are. So today, as we talk about T-Rex, drop your questions in the comments, in the chat box, as well as just general topics under the big umbrella of dinosaurs that you want to talk about. I should also mention this shirt, which is one of my favorites. It's from the Institute for the Study of Mongolian Dinosaurs. The first job that I had that was really dinosaur-centric was working at the American Museum of Natural History. There used to be a program called the Movable Museum, and it was literally 4 40-foot-long Winnebagos that had been converted into movable museums. And we drive them to schools all over the city. We do a little bit in the classroom. Kids would come out on the truck and actually get to do some hands-on fossil exploration. That program is no longer, but I bring up this shirt because one of those 4 vehicles, one of the dinosaur ones, is actually now in Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia, a country where we found some amazing dinosaurs like Velociraptor. And so they actually have that same truck going to schools, doing research, spreading the dinosaur education word in Mongolia. And they sent me this cool shirt, which has Protoceratops on it, which is a little beaked guy, a cousin of Triceratops, but a lot smaller. It's got a little frill, cool sclerotic ring, which are little bones around the eyeball. We'll get to that. But back to T-Rex. Can I see a virtual hand if T-Rex is your favorite dinosaur? Okay, we got a lot of fave dinosaurs here. Some people say T-Rex is overrated. And like, I understand where you're coming from because you hear about T-Rex all the time. It's in pop culture, movies, books. But like, when you really step back and look at T-Rex, like look at him, her, it, and actually study it, you recognize that like, it is appropriately rated. T-Rex is America's dinosaur and is one of the most badass animals to have ever existed ever. So back to this tooth here. So this is a replica. This is a T-Rex tooth replica. A couple ways you can know a real fossil from a replica. Well, one is replicas aren't made out of rock, right? Rock weighs a fair amount. So if it's kind of lighter than it should be if it was rock, that's a good way to tell it's a replica. Plus this has been painted so you can kind of see the color of the tooth versus where the jaw would be. But if this was an actual fossil, this would all be one big brown color. And additionally, if this was a real fossil, you would be, and it was really well preserved, you would be able to see, I mean, you're not gonna be able to see on here because this is a replica, but along this edge right here and this edge right here, T-Rex had serrations. So just like a steak knife has those little grooves that makes it sharp, T-Rex had serrations on 2 different edges of its teeth, like a double-sided steak knife, right? So couple that with the fact they had the strongest bite force of any animal that's ever lived on land, and you've got a pretty perfect killing machine. I mean, this thing is bent backwards too, so anything it's biting isn't going anywhere. I don't know, by the way, I don't call them teeth anymore. I lovingly refer to this as a murder banana. So if you're into murder bananas, you can, here's one. And yeah, so you guys have seen T-Rex teeth and you've seen their mouths. There are no molars. Like if you use your tongue, feel the teeth in the back of your mouth. They're kind of rough and bumpy, right? We use those to grind up stuff, plant matter, because humans at this point, we're generally omnivorous. We eat both plants and meat. So we need sharp teeth in the front to cut stuff. And then teeth in the back to grind it up. T-Rex didn't have that. So it's just biting through giant chunks of prey, swallowing them whole. And and then pretty much pooping them out, only partially digested. And I say that because we have found coprolites, and I'm going to write this in the chat box, right? Why am I getting a phone call? It's not a good time for a phone call. There we go. I'm going to write coprolite in the chat box here so you can see the spelling. Coprolite, C-O-P-R-O-L-I-T-E, coprolite. So a coprolite is fossilized poop. And it sounds pretty gross, but we have fossilized poop from a lot of different animals. And it's not poop anymore. It hasn't been poop for literally millions of years, but it's been preserved where you can actually see minerals inside it and sometimes even chunks of bone. So if you find a coprolite, fossilized poop, in association with a fossil, you can be pretty sure it came from that animal, and you can look at the minerals in that poop, that fossilized poop, to figure out or have some idea of what this thing was eating, right? If it was mostly plant matter versus animals. And I bring this all up because we have found T-Rex coprolites, fossilized poop from a T-Rex. Some are kind of small, some are just about as big as this tooth, if not larger, that are up to 50% bone. So think about that. You are a T-Rex, you are just, remember the goat in Jurassic Park? There's gonna be a lot of Jurassic Park references, buckle up. And you just eat this whole goat. A couple days later, when you're done with it and you poop it out, half of your poop are just chunks of goat bone, which just sounds very painful if you ask me. I'm not really sure. I've never tried to poop chunks of bone. I don't recommend it. But if anyone really wants to give it a shot, never mind, don't do that. Just don't do that. So yeah, anything that bites, it's not going anywhere. Pretty perfect killing machine. But let's talk about what everyone makes fun of with respect to T-Rex, and that is its very tiny arms, right? T-Rex has incredibly tiny arms. There are other theropods. So theropods are the three-toed, primarily carnivorous dinosaurs that walk up on two legs. And there are other theropods that had tiny arms, like Carnotaurus, even smaller probably. But the most interesting thing to me is actually, well, there's a couple things. One, almost every depiction or imitation you see of a T-Rex, whether it's in a movie or you literally pretending to be a T-Rex, they got the arms and the wrists anatomically incorrect. So we now know that dinosaurs, like T-Rex, theropods, T-Rex, Velociraptor, that type of thing, you always see them kind of like this, but we now know they were actually clappers, not slappers. So when you do your T-Rex impersonation, you need to turn your wrists and your hands so they're facing each other, and two fingers. T-Rex only had two fingers. Most of it's like Allosaurus, cousins, had three. So not only did he have tiny, tiny hands, those wrists are turned in. We only got two fingers. They're pretty useless, right? There's a lot of some interesting, some kind of weird theories as to what they use them for, what they use those tiny hands for, and even why and how they evolved such small hands. I remember reading one idea about how the males would use these tiny hands to tickle the backs of the females while mating, which is ridiculous because no one wants to be tickled during those times. And also, that only speaks to the males having small hands. And also that just doesn't describe at all how they would evolve to get that small. And there's no way you could even begin to like test or evaluate that hypothesis. So I'm gonna go ixnay on that. I see Ashley in the comments on Zoom here said, evolutionary byproduct. That is my idea. That is my thought. So if you think about like an Allosaurus, for instance, which is a slightly smaller theropod, medium-sized theropod. So like maybe somewhere between the velociraptors you see in Jurassic Park, which aren't actually velociraptors, but we'll get to that. Somewhere between like a velociraptor and a T-Rex, there's an Allosaurus kind of in the middle. Allosaurus has bigger hands, bigger claws, and a slightly smaller mouth. T-Rex, however, has a giant mouth, giant head, giant skull. Like I mentioned earlier, strongest bite force ever. And so when you have that much weight at the front end of your body, I would imagine you would enable to not like tip over. Your body has to lose some other weight up at the front. So it's simply as a counterbalance, you're losing weight because those hands and those arms aren't being used as much. They're not as advantageous. Certain individuals that had larger bite forces and smaller hands were obviously able to survive and have more offspring, passing that trait on. So more and more T-Rexes got bigger and bigger heads, or T-Rex predecessors, bigger and bigger heads, smaller and smaller arms. It's almost like a vestigial organ, or a vestigial feature, which is a trait that served a purpose at one point and is now still on or in the animal, but it doesn't really serve its original purpose. So a great example of that is our whale hip bones. So dinosaur evolution is bonkers, but I think the craziest story of one group of animals evolution ever are whales, because whales came from everything on this planet started in water. Animals lived on water. And then some moved on to land. And then whales, or every whale and dolphin you see alive today, is descendant from an animal that kind of looked like a deer dog about 50 million years ago, that then went back into the water and slowly evolved to live in an environment that was actively trying to murder it, right? So whales, if you look at a whale skeleton, they don't have legs anymore, obviously, but they used to. So inside a whale skeleton, or inside a whale, in some natural history museums, you'll see this hanging from the ceiling when they hang a whale. There are these two little pieces of bone just kind of floating near where the pelvis would be. Those are vestigial bones, or bones from when whales had legs when they were on land and actually walked around. And so I'm thinking maybe a T-Rex arms are an example of that. A feature that used to be much more advantageous, and over time it's lost its main use or its main purpose. And you got to have trade-offs. There are always trade-offs, right? For instance, with a peacock, peacock's got a big giant tail feather to display and show how healthy it is, try to win mates. But that also signals it's easier to be seen by predators. So there are always trade-offs. Maybe your hand as a T-Rex gets bigger, your head and your skull gets bigger, your hands have to get smaller. We're not really sure. But so feel free to keep making fun of your T-Rex hands. Just remember, clappers, not slappers. All right, talked about the arms, talked about clappers versus slappers. Oh, we should talk about gastralia. It's a fun word to say. I'm gonna put that in the chat box too so we can see it, gastralia. If you're just joining us, again, today, we're just doing a little, hey, what's going down? Talking a little bit about T-Rex, because who doesn't love America's dinosaur, TM? But I need you to drop your comments and your questions, not just about dinosaurs, but about, well, I mean, not just about T-Rex, but about all dinosaurs. Not science in general, or me, whatever. Drop your questions and comments on Instagram in the chat box, or in the comments here on Zoom. We're also here on Instagram. I don't know. In the chat box, because moving forward, starting tomorrow's the first day of class. Tomorrow is Dino 101, day one, and I have a general idea of what each day is going to be after that, like what the main topic is, what we're going to talk about, whether it's extinction, whether it's sauropods, whether it's feathers. But I want to use your questions and your ideas each day to seed those topics. So please keep putting your questions and your comments and your dinosaur thoughts in the chat boxes. We'll get to them soon. I'm not going to be able to answer probably any of those today, because there's so many of you. There's lots of questions. There's only one of me, and just it's scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. But I love it. How many days? That's a good question that I randomly saw. How many days am I going to be doing this? I don't know. How many days are we going to be stuck as a quarantine? Not really sure. So at least all of next week. There is a lot to talk about if we're going to do a whole dinosaur thing. So at least all of next week, starting tomorrow, Saturday at noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific. And I think tomorrow we'll start with probably the most important question for Dino 101, which is, what's a dinosaur, right? Like, you got to be able to identify a dinosaur. If we're going to talk about dinosaurs, you got to be able to know what a dinosaur is and what a dinosaur isn't. So I think that's probably what we'll start with tomorrow. Okay. And I think another good question, will it be the same Zoom link every time? I believe yes, it will be the same Zoom link, and I'll be on Instagram Live. You don't need a link for that. Because when I set the meeting, I had a recurring daily meeting. And so I think the Zoom link should be the same. If not, I royally messed this up. So we'll see how. I need to say hi to a couple people before we keep talking about T-Rex. Hi to Grace and Grace's mom. Hi to my mom. Hi to the Awkward Dinosaurs. Hi to Ryan Dodge. Hi to John Lang and his kiddos. I had the idea of doing this for a while, and I got the kick in the butt by my accountability buddy and best friend, John. So John, thank you for kicking me in the gluteus maximus to make this happen. I'm sure there are tons of others of you that I know. Oh, and my sister Sasha. Listen, Kelly, I should say hi to Kelly as well. So hi to Kelly, hi to my sister Sasha, hi to Leia, I love it. And hi to all you kiddos out there that are intrepid dinosaur scientists. Because honestly, I don't care how old you are, every single one of us, I don't care what your job is, every single one of us is a scientist, right? The whole point of science is to make observations about the world around you, ask questions, test those out, and try to figure out more, and then reevaluate those and keep going in an attempt to understand more about literally everything. So from the moment you are born, you're not really thinking about doing the scientific method, but when you're curious and you reach out and you grab something, you're asking a question in a certain sense about it, and then you're exploring it. You're trying to figure it out. You're doing research as you look at it, checking it out, and now you've learned more about it. And so as you move forward, you have a little bit more knowledge that you can keep building on. And that's basically what science is. And there is no better process in my mind to help learn more about the natural world than science. And there's no better thing to talk about with respect to science than dinosaurs. Because, and you can quote me on this, dinosaurs are a gateway drug to science. I don't care if you're 4 years old, 400 years old, everybody loves them, and they're a great enigma, and they equal the playing field in a way as well. And what I mean by that is, like, if you study lions, if you're a lion scientist or a lionologist, you can just go to a place there are lions, and you can see lions. You can watch them move around. You can see how they move. You can see how they interact with their young. You can see how they hunt. But you can't do that with a T-Rex. You can't just watch a T-Rex walk down the street, right? So if you are 4 and you have a bunch of cool dinosaur books and you've read a bunch and you've thought about it and you've looked at animals that are alive today, or you're 80 years old and you have a PhD in paleontology and you've been studying this forever, your ideas and your theories and hypotheses about how these things looked, how they may have moved, how they took care of their young, how they hunted, how they behaved, could potentially be just as valid, whether you're 4 years old or 80 years old. And that's what I mean about dinosaurs being a great equalizer. And they're just incredibly impressive. And guess what? They're not extinct, but we're going to have a whole day about that, I promise. Back to T-Rex, because I think we got about 4 or 5 minutes left. We're going to try to do this for about a half an hour each day. My attention span is very small, so if you can stick with the 30 minutes, you and I are kin. All right, so we talked about the bite force from these guys. We talked about the serrations. We talked about pooping out giant chunks of bone, discovered those in coprolites. Talked about them being clappers, not slappers. Let's see, we talked about the 2 fingers, why they maybe only had why they had small hands, only 2 fingers. Ooh, gastralia. There's another term. I'm gonna put that in the Zoom room box. Gastralia. Maybe some of you guys know what gastralia is. So gastralia is something you generally don't see depicted on a lot of T-Rex skeletons in museums. And so everyone feel their ribs. Oh yeah, we're feeling our, this got weird real quick. Feeling our ribs, right? But then your ribs, there's a spot right here where there are no ribs, right? Where your stomach, your abdominals are, right? But in T-Rex, they actually had gastralia, which are bones. They're kind of like make a full circle, bones that are right here. So it's almost like a smaller rib cage that protect the internal organs from the bottom side. So shout out to Sue the T-Rex at the Field Museum. If you're on Twitter and you're not following Sue the T-Rex, you are absolutely using Twitter incorrectly. One of my favorite profiles ever, hands down. Also the Field Museum, one of my favorite, probably my second favorite museum, natural history museum, or museum in general in the world. My heart still lives with American Museum of Natural History in New York. I work there, I give tours there. That's my baby. But Sue, the Field Museum, they just redid her entire suite, and she now has the gastralia, so you can see some cool, like underside ribs. So that's pretty cool. T-Rex couldn't do crunches. That's a good joke. Do I think sharks are dinosaurs? No, sharks are not dinosaurs. Great question. Tomorrow, when we do Dino 101, what is a dinosaur? We're going to get into how you can figure that out. Let's see, a couple other things before we bounce. T-Rex probably had feathers. Facts. So we're going to do a whole day on dinosaurs and feathers and if they had feathers and how we know. But suffice it to say at this point, T-Rex probably had feathers. We do not have any direct evidence of T-Rex with feathers, but we have a lot of evidence of smaller T-Rex cousins with some level of featheration. Featheration is not a real word unless we want it to be, and so I'm coining it right now, featheration. So we don't have direct evidence of T-Rex with feathers, but we do have evidence of smaller cousins with feathers. But listen to this. So like you've seen, I'm sure some of you have seen depictions of, for instance, Lucy, who is an Australopithecus, which is basically, the first habitually bipedal hominid, which basically means ancient human predecessor that walked upright on two legs all the time, right? About 3 million years ago. Lucy literally took the first steps that ended up with all of us here today. And we've found bones from Lucy. We have no evidence whatsoever that Lucy had any hair or fur, right? But every single ape that we know today, including ourselves, has some level of hair and fur. Hair, fur, hair, and fur, hair. And so we make the assumption that because Lucy is so closely related, she probably had hair as well. And so the same thing stands to reason with T-Rex. I think hopefully in the next few years, maybe one of you guys will find a T-Rex with evidence, direct evidence of feathers. All right, so we are at 12:32 right now. I know the Zoom room has like a 40-minute limit, I think, because I am cheap at this point and have not purchased the higher level, whatever the package is. You know, you can hit me up on Venmo or Cash App and we'll make this go big. So there's one last thing though, with respect to T-Rex, and then I'm gonna try to answer some of your questions. I see a question here about best book recommendations. DK Books wrote a book, well, has a book called Dinosaur A to Z. It was written by a guy whose name, I can't remember, what was his name? Do you remember that guy's name who wrote that book? Oh, that was me. I wrote it. Yeah. Okay. So there's a guy named Dustin Growick who wrote Dinosaur A to Z. It is a DK book. It's got a bright yellow neon cover. Highly recommended. That's Tinley. You met Maya earlier. That's Tinley. She's the OG. She's like the queen. Whereas Maya, wherever she is like the crazy, drank too much Mountain Dew teenager who goes bonkers all the time, which I relate to. Okay. Thank you. 40 minutes. Yes. Let's see. We got Protoceratops. We got Triceratops. We got a lot of questions coming in. There's no way I can get to all these right now. But again, because we only got a couple minutes, couple last things I want to say. Dinosaurs, at least theropods, again, three-toed, primarily carnivorous dinos, Utah raptor, velociraptor, Deinonychus, T-Rex, they probably tasted like chicken. It's true. I mean, because they were very bird-like. And we're gonna do a whole day on birds, dinosaurs, the bird-dino connection. But at least for those probably feathered dinos that walked on two legs, they probably tasted like chicken. But that's kind of strange because we're talking about primarily carnivores. And so I guess only other carnivores would know that they taste like chicken, even members of their own species. And I bring this up because we have found T-Rex fossils with evidence of gouge and bite marks from other T-Rexes. Right? So we can match up. We found that with Triceratops too. So we know T-Rex was eating Triceratops. We know T-Rex was at least sometimes a cannibal. We don't know if it like hunted and tried to eat other T-Rexes. We don't know if it stumbled upon a dead T-Rex and decided, hey, here's a free meal, I'm gonna eat it. Or maybe they were fighting for either hunting grounds or for mates and one killed the other. It makes hunting for you easier if there's not another one around. Plus, now you got a whole dead giant T-Rex. You're a T-Rex. You probably don't care. Probably going to eat it. So probably, at least at some level, cannibals, T-Rex. Did they hunt in packs? Incredibly hard to know if T-Rex hunted in packs. I would guess probably not, based on the fact that we haven't found any fossil evidence of like groups of T-Rex together. And if you think about large animals today, well, there's some that hunt in groups cooperatively, like lions. It's hard to know. Again, and this again speaks to why dinosaurs are the most fun scientific enigma to talk about, because we just don't really know. And so it's a great chance for us to think about and throw out our own ideas and discuss what they look like, how they moved, how they hunted, how they took care of their young. We get after it, nerd out together. Acacia says, we have your book. Awesome. Thank you for buying the book. You know, I'm just trying to nerd out as hard as I can with as many people as possible about the greatest group of animals to have ever existed. And I think that is a great place to leave it for today. If you have not already, friends here on Instagram, friends right here on Zoom, in the comments, in the chat box, put your dino questions, or any questions for that matter. Also drop like general umbrella topics within paleontology or dinosaurs that you want to talk about. Because again, starting tomorrow, because days of the week don't mean anything anymore. Saturday, we are starting Dino 101. Max, are you excited? Yeah. He's excited. That's Max. That's my brother. You'll see him around here He does great scientific tattoos. He's a tattoo artist. Follow him on Instagram at max_tattoos. Anyway, tomorrow, Dinosaur 101. Tomorrow we're going to do, what is a dinosaur? When you're looking at an animal, alive, or dead, in a museum, on TV, in the wild, how do you figure that animal is a dinosaur or is not a dinosaur? Because that's the first step. We're going to talk about dinosaurs. You know how to talk about dinosaurs. So tomorrow at noon, right here again on Zoom, Instagram Live, we are going to do Dino 101. And moving forward after that, I can't do this without you. We're on this adventure together. Science is collaborative. We learn more and we have more fun when we are one big Corin team. I don't know what, that was like, you know what I just accidentally did? I accidentally did a move from Jurassic Park where he talks about how the raptors come together and they start to eat you before you die. Which is also probably not the case. We'll talk about raptors later, but those sickle claws, probably actually not for disemboweling, probably more for like slashing at a jugular or at the throat, also to be used to hold down struggling prey. We should probably do a whole day about the raptor, including feathers and all that jazz. So, friends, last reminder, drop your questions and your comments in the chat boxes, in the comments, and we're going to use those because, again, on Wednesday, let's say, if we're talking about extinction, and I see that Tucker had a great question about it, I'm going to bring your tiny little square on Zoom to the front. You're going to ask us your great question, and we're going to do this as one big collaborative science team. I think that is all for now. Max, am I forgetting anything? Is there anything I should add? No? Don't forget to be awesome. You can look out your window for dinosaurs. We'll get to that. For now, I guess, whether you're stuck at home in quarantine, whether you're here on a Zoom link, whether you're studying dinosaurs, never stop digging.